Welcome back to day one of the 2020 Project Play Summit. Project Play's framework of 8 strategies for the 8 sectors that touch the lives of kids was released in 2015 with a call to action by then U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy for communities and organizations to mobilize around. Hundreds did exactly that. Investments were made, policies were introduced, tools were created. At the 2016 Project Play Summit, Michelle Obama challenged the sports industry to do even more. So the next year, we created Project Play 2020, inviting 20 organizations from across sectors to come together for 3 years and see what was possible when silos connect. Consistent with collective impact methodology, we developed a theory of change, and the group identified KPI that it wanted to impact. Then, each member introduced mutually reinforcing actions, like the How to Coach Kids website, led by Nike and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, aggregating free coach training resources that any sport provider could use. There was also the Healthy Sport Index, a resource for parents and other stakeholders to evaluate and improve the sport experience for kids. We also created Don't Retire Kid, the biggest media campaign in the history of youth sports, which launched last year on ESPN with the help of Kobe Bryant, the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, the U.S. Tennis Association, and other Project Play 2020 members. The campaign won several international awards, including a 2020 Halo Award, North America's highest honor for corporate social good initiatives. Just before COVID-19 hit, progress was being made nationally in the KPI at the center of Project Play 2020, from reversing drop-offs in participation to growing the percentage of coaches trained to work with youth. But as noted, COVID-19 has been a setback. So we're thrilled to announce that the work of Project Play 2020 will continue, this time with a 4-year commitment from members. To reflect the new time horizon to work together, we're adjusting the name of the group to be PP 2024, shorthand for Project Play 2024. It includes most of the members of the first cohort, plus a few new ones. The members are the American College of Sports Medicine, Augusta Sportswear, Dick's Sporting Goods, ESPN, the Hospital for Special Surgery, League Apps, Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association's Youth Development Foundation, the NBA, the NHL, the National Lacrosse League, Nike, PGA of America, the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, Sports Facilities Companies, Sports and Fitness Industry Association, TeamSnap, Under Armour, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, the U.S. Soccer Federation, and the U.S. Tennis Association. Technical advisors to the initiative include the CDC and FICOR at the City University of New York. We thank these organizations for their support and look forward to helping them identify opportunities to turn today's crisis into tomorrow's opportunity. With that, I'd like to let one of the new members, TeamSnap CEO Dave DuPont, introduce our next panel.
Thanks very much, Tom. I'm delighted to be a part of Project Play 2024. We feel at TeamSnap that Project Play is engaged in a very worthy cause, and we want to support that. But I want to emphasize the fact that this is personal for me. Sports was a big deal, a very positive influence on my life. I didn't play college or pro sports. I wasn't an Olympic athlete. And nonetheless, I gained tremendously from being involved in team sports. In my case, it was football, wrestling, and track. And I feel that those activities really helped me in terms of improving my tenacity, my resilience, my understanding of teamwork, discipline. Certainly, I especially remember football in the early days. I did more, or I accomplished more than I ever thought I could through hard work, and health. I think that participating in team sports laid the foundation for a healthy lifestyle. All of this is why I believe that sports is a really positive activity, not just for individuals, but for families and society as a whole. And that's why I'm proud that TeamSnap is doing everything it can to support equal access to sport. what I experience should be available to everyone. That's why TeamSnap is offering our software for free to any organization that could otherwise not afford it. That's why we have committed to spending $1 million toward this goal, toward improving access to sport for those from disadvantaged communities. And lastly, that's why I'm so excited about our partnership with Project Play. That said, let me introduce the moderator for our next session, Chiney Ogwumike. Take it away, Chiney.
Hey, as you heard, I'm Chiney Ogwumike, and I'm so excited because I'm an Aspen Institute vet, like a number of other people here. In other words, about 2 years ago, I was lucky to join the Project Play Summit in DC, and now I'm super glad to be back. And this time, I got a squad with me, MVPs only. We're here to talk about something that we are all so passionate about, youth sports. And so joining me today, we have a multi-sport athlete, 4-sport varsity athlete in high school. I'm talking about basketball, baseball, track, and football, star running back and receiver. Yes, I did my homework. That took him all the way to Cornell. ESPN president, Jimmy Pitaro. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And next, someone that can do laps around all of us. Right now, I'm talking about cross country, track, and even marathons. So he is built to persevere, as we've seen this latest season, straight out of Duke, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And last, but certainly not the least, ESPN's newest edition, NBA Analyst. Let's go. Welcome to the family and the recipient of the NBA Sportsmanship Award. We all know about his hops, okay, but you probably don't know they probably originated playing volleyball and football. Right. That's on his youth sports resume. That's how he got that vertical, that vert. It's right. An amazing career you've had, Vince. That, of course, includes UNC and 8 all-star appearances. I am talking to the one and only legend, new addition to the family, which I'm so excited about, Vince Carter. Hey, Vince.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I get to be a rookie again.
Oh, okay. That's good. I'm not the vet here. We're both equally rookies, so we're on the same team as always. Welcome, everyone, and there's so much to dive into, so let's get started. One of my favorite programs that ESPN launched last year, I'm talking about the Don't Retire Kid campaign that seeks to bring attention to the fact that kids on average were opting out of sports by the age of 11. And I started playing basketball, me personally, myself, at the age of 10, and it completely transformed my life and my sister's lives. So it's so important for kids to continue playing, not just knowing what they might become or what they might stumble into. I was too tall for gymnastics. I was horrible at hoops when I first started, but my parents, they saw a lot of values in it, like hard work, work ethic, camaraderie, that made us stay with it. They told us to stay with it, and we listened, and we're very grateful. And now this campaign, Don't Retire Kid, got a lot of attention. It won a lot of awards and served as a real call to action to keep kids involved in sports. But then, as we've seen, especially when it comes to youth sports over the last few months, the world just got flipped, inside out, upside down. COVID-19 hit, and a lot of, kids were forced to stop playing. And that's obviously for safety, but they were told to stay inside. And a lot of kids could not engage in sports programs that they were coming to love, fall in love with, like me and my sisters did years ago. At least, stop for now. Jimmy, why is the Don't Retire Kid campaign and messaging still so important now more than ever?
Look, we're incredibly proud of the Don't Retire Kid campaign. All of us at ESPN believe that of course, kids should be able to take advantage of all the benefits of sports. And in working with our Project Play partners, we were able to direct parents to incredibly important resources and resources that help their children play sports. And unfortunately, as you alluded to, the message of the campaign is probably more relevant now than it's ever been. And I would say that among all of the terrible impacts of COVID, kids now don't have the same opportunities to stay active. And we've all, look, I personally drive by so many empty fields, and it's so sad to see that on so many levels. And if kids are away from sports for long enough, they very well may retire. And that could be very detrimental to their long-term health or long-term well-being. And it's especially troubling for groups who were already at a disadvantage. 69% of girls did not play team sports on a regular basis. And that number was pre-COVID. So you can imagine what it is now. And so, you know, the problem was already very bad, and COVID has made it significantly worse. So yes, quite simply, our work has never been more important. We have to work creatively together as an industry to keep kids playing sports, and while of course at the same time keeping safety as a top priority. Striking that balance is incredibly important.
You're right, Jimmy. Finding creative ways to do this, using, you know, our teamwork and our team power to figure out how we can push forward, you know. And one of the coolest things that I've been a part of, and this comes to Adam, is I'm a member of the Junior NBA Leadership Council. And the NBA has always pushed out this same message, which I love seeing us all in alignment, no matter how we do it on our day-to-day. And this is an inclusive message for both boys and girls, as Jimmy alluded to, which I absolutely love. And I know that the Junior NBA has had to shift its programming in response to COVID-19. Can you talk a little bit about how the NBA, Adam, is really doing this, making this shift, this transition to help youth basketball players in the Junior NBA network stay engaged throughout this pandemic?
Absolutely. So in a nutshell, we're shifting to virtual learning, you know, in the same way, obviously this panel is being conducted, and I couldn't agree more with Jimmy's points and your points, how critically important it is that young people, boys and girls, participate in sports. It's amazing when you see the connection between kids who play sports, and I'm a little biased towards team sports, and particularly then looking at their success as adults in organizational behavior, in the workplace, you name it. I think these fundamental values, so much of us learned as kids. And I think it's obviously incredible to be in the company of two all-stars like you and Vince, but I think the message for kids, and it's really important, is that it's not about necessarily getting into the rarefied air that you guys are in, that it's about participating. And that's one thing that I learned in coming to the NBA. I mean, I've been with the league now for almost 30 years. And I think when I was a kid, in addition to the running you talked about, I played a lot of baseball, but not at a high level, you know, little league, junior league, those kinds of things. But I think I thought as a kid that unless you were going to be great, there was so much emphasis on winning, frankly, that it wasn't clear to me. And I grew up in a household where my father wasn't present. And so I think I, frankly, misunderstood in part why I was participating. It seemed like you were playing to win, and if you didn't win, you lost, and potentially even were a loser. And I think now, as I've gotten to know people like you and Vince over the years, people, again, who are the best in the world at what they do, and you see that, and I wish kids could understand that you guys are just like everybody else. You happen to be incredible at this sport. You're incredible in this sport, in part because you were so committed to it and worked so hard at it, but also that your values are no different, and that, especially in a team sport, you know, you may be the best person on your team, and you certainly were at every level before you got to be a pro, and then probably often were as well. But without those teammates, without those coaches, you wouldn't be the people you are today. And so I always think about this at the NBA and WNBA. What else can we do while at the same time we're focusing on the very elite of the elite to convince young people that it's about participation? And so, of course, as Jimmy pointed out, we're in a very difficult time now for youth sports because health and safety is understandably people's top priority. But I will just add that it's also a health issue if kids particularly are not participating in life, and that there are ways in which kids, short of obviously living in a bubble, which I am at the moment, can still participate in sports and remain safe, especially outdoor sports. You know, basketball played on playgrounds, you know, you go out and, you know, kids can find ways to be socially distant and still, you know, running, which you talked about, which I do, you know, is a fantastic way to stay active. And so people have to make accommodations. And lastly, I'll say where technology is really helpful, I think whether, you know, you're wearing an Apple Watch like I am or a Fitbit or whatever else, that there are ways to add some structure to it where the competition becomes fun, because competition's a value too. You know, that it doesn't mean that you have to win all the time, but it's learning how to compete in life. And I think that even if it's just recording your runs on a daily basis or recording steps or recording activity, I think it gamifies it a bit. And I think that creates sort of additional engagement and excitement for kids.
You know, you're right, Adam, because you talk to Vince or any elite athlete, we learn more through losing. And you know, winning is great. It feels good in the moment, but the way you move forward is by learning losing. And, you know, you mentioned a lot about us during our adolescence and, you know, the important key crucial moments you have as a kid and how that shapes and molds you as an adult. And that becomes our responsibility, our own calling. And I know this firsthand because I am lucky and fortunate to have had super supportive parents and role models and figures that helped keep me motivated. And I think there's so many figures out there that help keep kids going, even though it's hard. We have to be a little bit more creative. You're talking to the girl that literally was training in the middle of the pandemic in fields in Texas, next to cows moving and stuff, but that was home. And we just had to find a safe way to do it. And having my parents there, and even, I promise you to this day, my dad hasn't even changed. He never believes I've ever committed a foul in any game I've played in basketball.
I know, he's called me.
Exactly. And, you know, it's my dad, it's my mom, the devotion that they had that has kept me confident, especially as a girl. That sort of empowered me to step into my own shoes, you know, even working as a broadcaster with ESPN, which Vince knows now a lot about. And Vince, you are a dad and you've helped your kids have fun and also want to stay in sports. Hopefully, you know, that's what their goals are, considering, I mean, they got a great teacher. What did you learn as a young athlete that you want to pass on to the next generation, including your kids?
Well, I'll tell you this, you know, I give a lot of credit to my parents, my mom, you know, she was, you know, on the road traveling, as I'm sure your parents have for you know, I played volleyball, I ran track. You know, I was a kid that wasn't afraid to try sports. And that was because my mom instilled in me, hey, don't be afraid to try other sports. And I know it's different now, and it's mind-boggling to me to hear kids or see kids kind of focusing on one particular sport at such a young age, when all of these other sports can develop your quote unquote go-to sport. Because for me, I felt basketball, I knew basketball was something I wanted to do professionally, but I wanted to enhance my abilities and my skills any way possible. So volleyball was perfect for me. And it started, I walked into the gym, kind of a joke, hey guys, I'm gonna go in there and try out for the team. And as I learned more about it, I understood how it would help me as a basketball player. But for my kids, you know, my daughter is 15 and she started off at the age of 4 playing tennis, and she got good at it and she was burnt out at 11. But she was good at it. And the thing I wanted for her is just to enjoy it. And everybody, I'm sure you're going to go through it, and all athletes with their kids, they go through the, you know, they go through this, they get this question. Hey, is your kid's going to play basketball like you, or is your kid going to play your sport? And for me, I never to this day have introduced the game of basketball to any of my kids. They pick it up on their own if they choose to. And my daughter at first didn't look at a basketball. She didn't look at a basketball. And as she got to the age of 6, she asked me if she could be in my basketball camp, because that's when it started at 6 years old to 17. And then next thing you know, it was just kind of a social thing. Oh, basketball, cool, because dad plays, I go to a few games, whatever. And she picks up tennis. And she transitions from tennis into volleyball, which she's currently playing now. And basketball's on the side. I remember the day she came up to me and said, like, Dad, can I be in your basketball camp? And then she's like, Dad, I'm going to try in high school, middle school. She said, Dad, I'm going to try for the middle school team. I'm like, what? What a present surprise. And then you get to my son, he's 3, he is addicted to golf. He's addicted to golf. And, you know, but dad plays it and he sees it. So my kid hits it. So for me, I'm like, try all the sports, whatever you want to do. My daughter, I think the reason she transitioned out of tennis into volleyball, because it's a team sport. And she's a team sport. She's a supporter. She's one of those girls. She's a leader. She likes to help her teammates persevere. Help her teammates succeed, and to see her team do well as her. And then perseverance is just being able to find a way through the tough times. And like you said, when you're losing, how do you get better? And the film doesn't lie.
Yeah, it never lies. That's why we are watching it ad nauseum in the pros. And perseverance is so key, because we all know when it comes to sports, it's different barriers to entry. And we all have different, sports journeys growing up. Mm-hmm. And what I love about the Don't Retire Kid campaign, and even the Junior NBA Global Championship, I'm Nigerian American, being able to make sports accessible globally, where basketball is always on the up and up because of the mission. It's been so important for all youth around the world. And Jimmy, you've been extremely vocal about ensuring that diversity and inclusion is a priority at ESPN. I mean, just to keep it real, I am a living, breathing product of your leadership and your mission, being the first Black woman and WNBA player to have a national radio show at ESPN. How does that mission for diversity and inclusion translate to the work that ESPN is doing in the community, especially underserved communities?
So let me be clear. It's not only a priority, it's our number one focus. We talk about expanding our audience and quality storytelling and programming, but diversity, inclusion, belonging, that's our number one focus at ESPN, and also at the Walt Disney Company. Just to reiterate, we know that Black children have less access to sports than their white peers. Hard stop, just a fact. So yes, in my opinion, this is a social justice issue. And since we started our access to sports strategy about, I believe, 6 years ago, making sure that kids from all backgrounds and, just as importantly, all abilities can play has been a priority for us, and really has been our North Star in this area. And so this year we are taking it a step further, and I'm happy to report that we'll continue to ensure that our social investments are going to those who need it the most. And as we move forward here, at least 60% of all the social investments that we make at ESPN will be towards two youth investment strategies, access to sports and empowerment through sports. And in terms of each of those, that 60% will benefit Black and African-American youth for a total of at least $1 million. So we're pretty excited about that.
That's amazing. That's tremendous. And if I may, to follow that up, you mentioned that ESPN has been enabling access to sports for years now. And this audience knows, how incredibly important it is, sports being to the development of, children, from helping kids improve their academic performance to building skills. I know, Vince knows all the benefits we've received from sports. And especially as a woman, I can tell you that this has helped me twice over, instilling confidence from a young age. What power does playing sports have for the youth?
So look, obviously a completely different level than you and Vince. Let's just be very clear here. Let me start with that. But I talk about this all the time, though. Playing team sports has been incredibly valuable, incredibly impactful to me throughout my entire life, throughout my career. I learned so much on the court and on the field that has helped me to get to where I am today. I honestly probably learned more by being part of a team in my youth than I did through all the classrooms combined that I was in. Education is incredibly important, but being a part of a team has been incredibly valuable to me personally. And I know I'm not alone there. One study that was recently put in front of me showed that 9 in 10 female CEOs played sports at some point in their lives. And when Black, brown, and other kids of color don't have that same opportunity, when girls don't have that same opportunity, that's fundamentally wrong. There's a problem there, and it's up to all of us who are in these positions, media executives, league executives, talent, athletes. It's up to all of us to make sure that kids have the same opportunities that I had growing up. And so that's why we created the Sports for Life program at ESPN. We did it in partnership with the Women's Sports Foundation. And it's a program that looks to increase participation in sports for Black and Hispanic girls while helping them to build in important life skills. And that's things like leadership, self-esteem, confidence, perseverance. And since we began here, since its inception, we've contributed about $1.4 million to this program, and we've impacted over 60,000 girls in 34 sports. And so we take a ton of pride in those numbers, but at the same time, we're also just getting started here.
You know, Jimmy, I always say you cannot be who you cannot see. And I am so proud to work with ESPN because we're constantly pushing and finding innovative ways to enhance our women's coverage. You know, ensuring girls have access to sports has been a focus of the WNBA, the NBA, and the Junior NBA as well. Can you talk about what Junior NBA is doing to help advance youth girls basketball?
You know, again, there's been a bit of a setback because of what's going on in the pandemic. But I think what, you know, by virtue of having a WNBA, and to your point, that those young girls being able to see women like yourselves, real role models in sports, we've been able to take all of our programs and in essence make them co-ed. And where many of the NBA programs, certainly when I first got involved in the league, there was sort of this notion, well, this is the NBA, so this is for boys. But now these programs are available for everyone. And I said, when we started, you know, we're in the process of moving them all into virtual applications. And I think incidentally, those types of applications don't have to go away when the pandemic's over, because they do create people into larger communities. And I'll just use the example of myself. You know, as I hear the stories of all you participating in team sports, you know, Chiney, as you said in my introduction, I was more of a runner and I did things that were more solitary other than play baseball. And in retrospect, I wish there had been someone pushing me to be more involved in team sports. And I feel like now as an adult, you know, again, I've been with the NBA for close to 30 years, that this whole league is a team sport.
And one of the biggest champions of our league, our game of women's basketball, apart from Jimmy and Adam, has also been, you know, the late, great Kobe Bryant. And Kobe was one of the best ambassadors we've ever seen, not just for women in sports, but just women pushing boundaries and taking that Mamba mentality and applying it to every aspect of their life. And Vince, you know, I know you've played against Kobe for years and you've seen his impact on the game. And then, you know, years later, we start to discover what he was doing for the women's game in particular. You speak a lot of your daughter, and just seeing the confidence that she's been able to step into is truly beautiful. What do you think, and what have you experienced with, you know, Kobe's legacy, sort of not only just being limited to what he's done on the court, but also how he's impacted the women's game and women's sports in general off the court as well?
I tell you what, I'm just going to speak on the one moment. We were playing the New Jersey Nets in New Jersey, and he was sitting courtside with Gigi. And getting the opportunity to kind of talk to him and just catch up and seeing how happy he was. And we were just talking about, you know, retirement, what he was up to. And he said one of the best things about being retired was getting the opportunity to coach and watch his daughters and the team he's coaching of the young ladies grow. And he was, you know, because obviously he knew I had a daughter. He's like, you know, you watch, you'll see how great it is and how you enjoy it. And that conversation was one of the things that helped me be able to say the word retirement. Just to seeing how happy Kobe Bryant, with the Mamba mentality, who didn't have many friends and didn't talk to anybody, turned into the father figure, girl dad. I mean, when he talked about just what he, you know, his excitement for just helping her grow, you could just see him melting right there in front of everybody. And it was just great to see. And for me, it's great to watch my kid play. Obviously, I can't be in the gym when she's playing her volleyball matches. So I sit right here in this spot watching her virtually, and I'm going crazy over here. And it's just great to see and support. And I tell you, sports and for girls getting the opportunity to play sports on a high level and see high level athletes that they can look up to, the confidence that they have in a male-driven, male-dominant world. Like my daughter now can go into her classroom, walk around campus, and feel good about herself because of the success or being a part of a team sport. Or you look at this when you're in high school, you walk around like, oh, she's on the varsity team, and the respect that you're given and the confidence you have walking around because you're respected because you're on a team or on the high school team of whatever, freshman to varsity, it doesn't matter. And you see that in girls, and it's just great to see. My boy plays in a soccer league. There's one girl on that team, and she might be the toughest one of them all. Like she runs around, she's knocking these boys down like it's nothing. And it's just great to see because, like you said, years ago, you didn't see boys and girls integrated together. Now you will see that. She's the only one, she's the smallest one, and she's running these kids over. And I love it.
I love it. And it all comes down to one thing that you said, Vince, respect. That's all that we want.
Yep.
And investment, which I wish we could do a virtual fist pound, Adam, because we got that investment. Appreciate you as always. A lot of the metrics show that the women's game is truly growing. And speaking of which, and returning again to my nerdy nature, the Aspen Institute just released its National State of Play report, which includes national data captured just before COVID-19 shut down sports. And it shows real progress was made over the last year in the KPI, which is the key play indicators at the center of Project Play, national participation rates, which include a lift in the percentage of low-income kids playing and training rates also for coaches. Jimmy, what does that tell you about the value of collective impact and also organizations working together to attack a complex problem?
I'll start by thanking my partners across the industry. I think the way our sports industry has rallied together over the last 6 months has just been incredible. From our response to social justice and racism to helping those affected by COVID, it's just been an incredible example of the power of collective impact and the power of the sports industry that we're all working in. And to bring this back to ESPN, I mean, look, we're so proud to work with the leagues and work with our business partners to help move the needle on these critical issues. And look, we know that there's not one answer to solve the problem that we're all talking about right now. And no one organization, no one league, no one media company can tackle these complex problems alone. And it's imperative that we all work together. And I'd say it's also worth calling out that the future of the sports industry, the future of the industry that we're working in depends on this next generation. The more that kids enjoy sports at a young age, the more likely they will be future sports fans as adults. We talk about this all the time at ESPN. So for the sake of our industry, but more importantly, much more importantly, for the future health and well-being of our children, we have to work together to keep kids active and engaged and playing sports, and we are.
How do you see the collective impact happening now in real time, Adam?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's hard in a pandemic, quite honestly, and I agree with Jimmy that we need to approach it in a very data-focused way and to understand where we should be putting our resources and what it is that's going to work. I think during this extraordinary time, I think we should be doing everything we can, and it'll be tough to really understand how what we're doing virtually is truly having an impact. But then coming out of it, I think that we got to focus our resources on ways that that are truly going to have an impact. I mean, I think that speaking of data, I think the stories you've all told, and the data you've cited is absolutely clear. I've seen similar data, and as I mentioned earlier, in terms of participation in youth sports as a kid, and then success as an adult, and as a leader, in terms of your ability to adapt in an organization. So, I don't think we should overthink it at the moment. I think that health and fitness benefits are well known. We know we have childhood obesity and diabetes issues that cut across socioeconomic lines. So it's not just a function, of poor rich families. It's more correlated to inactivity, and poor food choices. And last issue I'll mention that I'm particularly proud of is that, because a few NBA and WNBA players have been willing to speak out about mental wellness issues, that's been added to our curriculum. I mean, Vince and I have talked about this several times, so that now, where in youth basketball programs, where going back to when I first got in the league, those programs were more about specific skills, then they broadened to be more about physical fitness, but now they're about mental wellness as well. And, but not in a overly intrusive way, more questions that coaches and leaders are trained to ask kids about their sleep patterns, and how they're doing at home, and making sure that they know that it's just like, Vince was saying that the varsity athletes are cool, that there's nothing wrong with speaking up as a kid and saying, I'm struggling in these areas, or, I'm anxious, I'm sad all the time. And I think that can be, when I think we look back to your question about outcomes at what we're able to do in youth sports, I think that's one that we may be talking the most about. And that's it, training young people to be more connected with their feelings, and the confidence that, to the extent they're feeling things that they think make them different than their classmates, that it doesn't make them abnormal in any way, that they're perfectly normal. And in fact, those are very likely thoughts that the seemingly confident kids are having too.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I've always told people that now we're in this special seminal moment where we're finally realizing that our differences are no longer weaknesses. Our differences collectively are our strengths. And to bring this home, we talked Don't Retire Kid and youth sports programs like the Junior MBA. And since you've just retired, Vince, and have mentioned your own children, which is the next generation, this is all hitting you full circle. Why does teamwork amongst all partners matter now more than ever?
Well, that teamwork is what it is. I mean, when, like you said, when you're struggling, you're having an off day, off night on the court in sports, whatever, you have somebody to pick you up and support you. I tell you what, the content with social media, the social media that has created so much content for young kids to go on, and kids now, they're always on the YouTube, and they're all somewhere. You can now look up the content of your favorite athletes, or athletes you don't know, who are what we consider the stars of stars, like a Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan. These guys are speaking out on their issues, which gives these young kids confidence now to be able to talk about their issues. And I've seen, and I wish I could remember the young man's name. There's a kid in high school, basketball player, who came out to talk about his mental health issues because of the confidence and the content he had from the DeMar DeRozan or some of these other athletes. So teamwork and just knowing you have someone supporting you and on your side at all times, it's extremely important. And I think that's why my daughter transitioned into team sports, because for as many good days you have bad days that kind of weigh on you a little more than the good days sometimes, and you want somebody to help uplift you. And sometimes it's your parents or friends can't do it, but you can go on social media and receive all of this content. And that is a part of teamwork, because of the people who are willing to share their issues that they've gone through to the world to help someone that you don't even know.
You're right. Access to information and access to support systems is our strength now, especially virtually. And we're right now here with partners who have made that a huge priority. Once again, it truly takes a team to create change for the next generation. Jimmy, Adam, Vince, thank you so much for your commitment to youth sport so that the next generation can break our records, both on and off the court, on and off the field, and build a better world. And once again, thank you to the Aspen Institute for bringing us all together.
I'd like to welcome back Allyson Felix, Olympic champion runner and one of our new Project Play champions, to get her thoughts on the story that leaders should try to tell in the coming years in terms of the delivery of youth sports. Allyson, I want to ask you about what type of sports system we should be aiming to build for children. Let's look out to 2024, the year of the Paris Olympics. You're a new mother. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah.
Your daughter will be about 6 then, right? 6 or 7?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the age at which kids enter youth sports. What type of experience and options do you hope await her?
I guess I really hope that when my daughter is that age, for her and, for the kids of her generation, that they'll have more access to sport, and that the barriers to entry for those sports won't be as high. I would love for her to, obviously play a variety of sport, but also, if she wants to fence or if she wants to ski or swim, whatever it is, that there won't be these preconceived ideas of what kids who play those sports look like. And that she'll have the resources to be able to do those things. And so, obviously I think there's work to be done to be able to have that happen. But that's what I imagine, her being able to have access to.
Mm-hmm. Are there certain populations of kids that you are most concerned about being, left out or locked out or even pushed out of sports?
Yeah, I'm always concerned about the underserved communities and underprivileged kids who don't have the resources or who don't have the parental support, who aren't going to be able to get to the location or, have the money to participate. And so those are the populations that I always think, have been left out for a really long time.
Yeah. One way that I've studied this a bit, one way that some countries have created a better foundation for youth sports is by developing a statement of sorts on what some call a children's rights in sport, right? A set of provisions that programs must abide to prioritize the needs of kids, the social, emotional, physical needs of kids through age 12. Norway did this. The declaration, which is supported by Norway's Olympic Committee and the NGBs, the national governing bodies of sports there, is designed to promote safety, access, love of game, and physical literacy for all kids. Do you think that's something we can or should explore here?
I think it's so interesting. And obviously, you've studied this in great detail. And I think the learnings that Norway has found, it's working for them. And so I think we have to explore that, because we are having such issues. And so I think obviously we have some challenges that America is different, and things that won't be the same. But I do think that there are things that should be applied. I think this idea of hearing kids and really listening to them is so interesting. Of course, I think, we have to set parameters, but I think we should be having conversations with our kids and really looking at them in a holistic way and not just singularly focused on them, in their skill level playing sports.
Yeah. If children were able to shape their activities, if their voice was more in the design of youth sports, what would we see? Would we see more free play? Would we see more, sports sampling, kids trying different activities? Would we see more of a focus on, just development of friendships, or how would it be different?
I think maybe the focus would not be so much on winning or intensity. I think we might see some of those things because that's really what draws a lot of kids into sport. It's having fun. It is making those friendships. It's finding your group of people. I know for me, when I, was drawn to sport, it was because of that. It wasn't because I wanted to be, this excellent runner. I wanted to have friends, and so I think we have to hear, what is taking kids away from being involved in sport. And once we know that, I think it will help us shape their activities. And if they have that input, I think we'll see them be more engaged.
Mm-hmm. You're one of the greatest Olympic champions ever. And you've done a lot of thinking about the Olympic movement in this country. How can the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and the Olympic movement in general, including the NGBs, better support youth sports? Any ideas?
Yeah, I loved what you guys talked about on a previous conversation surrounding coaches and the training. And I really love this because it shifted the focus just from purely winning and more on the development of children. And I think we see so many coaches who are volunteering, giving their time. They're eager to get involved, but they don't necessarily have the skill or the tools to teach kids. And so I think by giving them, that education and that leadership, it really will in return, help and benefit our kids. And, having that connection, the youth sports having that connection to their NGBs, I think they could really, really benefit by that, and I think we need to see more involvement because, in return, more resources, and in the end, a better experience for our kids.
Yeah. What about Olympians themselves and professional athletes? How can they best support?
Well, I think that Olympians and professional athletes, we love to give back. I think we all remember our time, growing up playing sports and how it changed and shaped our life. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for hands-on, engagement with kids and being able to share our own stories and to be able to support coaches and come alongside of them and kind of raise that excitement surrounding sport and not just focused on, becoming a professional athlete, but really talking about all of the ways that sport has influenced our life and help us really learn those foundational lessons that we apply to every area, which is so crucial.
Mm-hmm. You and Kobe were there with us from the start back in 2014, and he was a great champion of Project Play,
Yes.
and young people, especially girls. How do you look at his legacy when it comes to youth sports?
Oh man, I get emotional just thinking about, all that he did for youth sports, in particular for women, and being that girl dad, and you just saw his face light up, coaching and being courtside with his daughter. And I just think about that video of him breaking down the game to her, and what a cool moment. And I think he was just a champion for it. And he really saw it for what it was, and he could appreciate the skill and just the level of equality that he saw between men and women in sport. I just love that. He really was a champion for that. And so I think he was just getting started, in that whole phase and of coaching and with his academy and all of that. But his legacy, lives on. And I think we have to now continue that work and continue to uplift girls in sport and just carry it on.
Well, and you're not starting from scratch. I mean, I know you, Allyson, you've cared and you've dug into the issue of physical activity in kids for a good while now. You stayed with this. I mean, what do you hope your legacy will be from all the work you've done in this space?
I mean, I would hope to, follow in Kobe's footsteps, to raise that excitement and just champion the fight, of equality, but also of accessibility for kids, in all area codes and all levels. If you have a two-parent home, or if you don't, if you don't have a lot of resources, for them to all be able to really be able to participate in sport, because I know how that changes lives.
Yeah. Given we're living in a very tumultuous time right now. A lot of kids' lives have been disrupted. Their families are worried about money. Their play opportunities have sometimes disappeared. School is up in the air. Given the social and emotional needs of kids today, how should they be coached? Any ideas?
I think it really should be a holistic approach. I think for so long we have focused on just them excelling and winning. And I really think, I think about some of my greatest coaches and the way they coached me, yes, they were great coaches and, they cared about my skill, but they added to my life. They cared about how I was doing in school and, how my home life was. So I think that, yes, we need to have the tools to be able to coach them on the field of play, but we also need to develop, their skills and to use sport to help that, time management and dealing with defeat, how to be a good team player, you know, all of these things that sport has just an incredible way of teaching you. I think that's the approach that we have to take, is just really, you know, holistically coaching them.
Yeah, right. You know, some Olympic sports at the college or really most levels lack racial diversity, right? You can think, you can run through the, you know, Olympic sports, Winter Olympic sports, some Summer Olympic sports. How do we get more kids who are minorities playing these sports and advancing through the system?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had an easy answer. It's a really challenging problem. And I think a lot of it has to do with resources. I mean, I think about how I grew up. I grew up in the heart of LA. And had I wanted to ski, you know, I didn't even see snow until, you know, I was almost a teenager. And you think about getting to the snow. And once you get to the snow, you know, a lift ticket and coaching, and it's so expensive. So resources is huge in, you know, in changing this. So I don't have an easy answer, but I know that we've got to do better. We've got to expose our kids to a variety of sports and not just the traditional ones. And so it's a big task, but you know, we've got to keep pushing forward.
How important is it for kids to see people who look like them playing these sports?
Oh my gosh, it is crucial. I mean, we know that representation matters. And I think, you know, by seeing, you know, people who look like you playing sports, you kind of break down those walls of like, this sport isn't for me, you know? And it's so important. I remember watching the 96 games and watching Dominique Dawes. And here was this young girl who looked just like me. And I was just fascinated by her. And I had no aspirations to like play sports whatsoever. But by her just, you know, being out there and competing, I was at home trying to like order a balance beam for my backyard. So it does something incredible when you see someone out there, you know, participating in a sport.
Yeah. You know, we have a workshop during the summit on how youth coaches can talk to their athletes about matters involving race to promote acceptance and really limit attrition, you know, giving kids that sense of belonging, like, oh, you know, yeah, I should be here. Yeah. Any advice for coaches on how to talk to their kids about?
I think just having those honest conversations are good. I mean, sometimes they're difficult, but I think the more that we do it, the better off we are. We really have to kind of lay things out and talk about what's happening in the world and talk about people who look different from us and understand that we are really all the same. And what that looks like in playing sports. You know, I think it's a great way to bring, you know, to bring kids together with others who don't, you know, who don't look like them. So I think the workshop is great. And I think we have to keep encouraging those sometimes tough conversations.
Again, thank you for digging in with us.
Oh no, thanks for having me. I'm excited about, you know, all that you guys are doing.
Allyson isn't alone in joining Project Play as a new champion. We're excited to have Terrell Owens, Crystal Dunn, and Tatiana McFadden joining us as well. We asked each how they plan to use their voice in service of youth.
So I want to be able to, again, be a part of Project Play and everything that they're doing. Because like I said, I know there are a lot of kids that are like me that didn't have a blueprint, have a plan, but no matter what, you know, you have a long life to live. And if you live it long enough, you're going to understand that things aren't going to always go according to plan. And for me, I didn't necessarily have a plan, but I enjoyed playing sports. That was just, that's the enjoyment of being a kid, is just going out, just being kid free and just living your life.
I will always use my platform to be an advocate for kids playing sports, regardless if you want to go pro or if you are just a first timer, just joining in a new sport for the first time. I think sports is so incredible and it provides kids fundamental life skills that they can use and it will translate into the real world.
I think using your voice is so important, especially as a person with a disability who has faced challenges and who has faced discrimination. I want to be able to share my stories so we can help change the lives of the future. And what better way than to do this now? And I believe that play is so important, and it is much more than just fitness. It is about goal orienting. It is about learning to manage time, being part of a community, learning about sportsmanship. And so I think it's very, very important if you have a platform to use your voice.
In addition to our athletes, we also want to recognize our new 2020 cohort of organizations that have been selected as Project Play champions. Each is making a new, specific, meaningful commitment to the goals of Project Play. Those commitments are codified and recognized on our website. We thank them for their efforts and look forward to hearing about their progress. Project Play is also advancing its tools to help organizations and communities everywhere take action where they live. With that, I'd like to introduce Stacy Ulrich, Head of Global Philanthropy at Under Armour.
Good afternoon. At Under Armour, the athletic spirit is at the heart of everything we do. Whether it's ensuring that all youth have access to building skills on the field, to supporting the heroes off the field who perpetuate the spirit of courage, character, and dignity every day. We are relentlessly committed to partnerships that co-create experiences that are focused on ensuring kids are respected, safe, active, and provided opportunities to live a healthy life. As a founding member of Project Play 2020, Under Armour has committed time, resources, and expertise to raising youth sport participation rates for kids ages 6 to 12. And today, I'm excited to announce the release of Project Play's newly redesigned Teamwork Toolkit powered by ESPN and Under Armour. We started this journey with the Aspen Institute with the 2018 release. Our goal then was to provide community leaders the necessary tools to landscape their state of play and mobilize for action. After piloting and incorporating feedback, the platform's goals have not changed. However, the tool has been enhanced and is now free and available for all of us who are working to rally people around a common goal. It can be used to help develop a shared agenda, support the collection of data, and when you input your specific community priorities, it can serve as a framework for your local advocacy efforts. The toolkit is also able to guide community coalitions looking to align local initiatives, empower community groups, and mobilize, all to grow while making equitable access to sport for youth a reality. The redesign of the Teamwork Toolkit has come a long way, and we are thrilled today to make it available to everyone. Now over to the Project Play team for more.
Thanks, Stacy, and thank you to Under Armour and ESPN for your continued support of the Teamwork Toolkit. What a great way to start the 2020 Project Play Summit. There is so much energy from all of you, and we really appreciate your innovation. It inspires us every day to create our new state of play. We look forward to working together with you to do so.
And this important work is only made possible by the passionate network of communities like you who have come together with a vision of quality, low-cost sport opportunities for all. Leadership and intentionality from our community partners around the country, from Harlem to Hawaii, from Southeast Michigan to Western New York, has laid the groundwork through custom state of play reports for locally based mobilization around access and participation in quality community-based youth sport experiences. With ongoing projects in the city of Camden, New Jersey, and the Central Ohio region, we appreciate the nimbleness and innovation to meet community needs as we work together to understand the new state of play, focus on ensuring that kids are able to return to play safely. We look forward to working with these communities to release their new state of play reports. As communities look to rebuild and return to play, we are thrilled to announce Project Play's new technical assistance support, launching in partnership with the NRPA, who is committed to supporting capacity building for equitable community sports experiences in 12 communities through use of our redesigned Teamwork Toolkit.
All this work continues to be made possible by our sponsors and our key partners. And we're pleased to introduce Jason Keller from Tapia with another important announcement.
The first thing I want to say is we're very excited to be partnered in this great initiative. So over the past 5 years, we've worked with thousands of organizations across schools, sports teams, and very large youth, governing bodies. And right now today, we're really excited because our core value is to inspire kids to feel the joy of accomplishment. And right now, we really feel that partnering with Project Play right now and giving back 1% of future subscriptions is a way to really connect that mission. So we're very excited to be part of this.
We are so grateful for this commitment, and we're really thrilled to be working together to bolster the capacity building efforts of communities across the country and help rebuild our new state of play. This afternoon will be our first set of workshops focused on moving research to action and how to advocate for good policy, featuring voices from the Project Play communities as well as many other partners. But don't worry, there's plenty of amazing free resources in the event app on the Project Play website, and as we've discussed here today, in the newly redesigned Teamwork Toolkit. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern with a lot more.